All right, folks, let's talk a little bit about a guy named Jeffrey Epstein, and specifically his best friend, Donald J. Trump, who is the current president of the United States, by the way. Interestingly, I came across this article published in The Nation. Trump can't stop babbling about Jeffrey Epstein, and I read through it. It's an interesting read, but I found this to be particularly interesting. This section here, right? Whatever the administration's strategy is for pushing aside the Epstein-Maxwell scandal, it isn't working. The reason is Trump himself. He just keeps giving reporters more to work with, and the MAGA base more to worry about. Last week, he said he parted ways with Epstein because the late sex trafficker stole employees from Mar-a-Lago. When reporters asked if that included the late Virginia Giuffre, a high schooler whom Maxwell recruited from Trump's Mar-a-Lago spa and who was reportedly sex trafficked by the pair for years, he rather shockingly told the truth. "I think she worked at the spa," he told reporters. "He stole her." A few days later, asked why Blanche met with Maxwell for 9 hours over 2 days, Trump answered, also truthfully, "To make sure that further disclosures don't damage people who could be hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate, very unfair to a lot of people." Which, I missed that quote. I missed that quote right there. That's a pretty important quote right there. That's a pretty big whoopsie daisy. Like, you had your former defense attorney go down to talk with Ghislaine Maxwell for 2 days because you wanted to make sure that anything she said wouldn't hurt other people and be unfair to other people, because he doesn't talk about the victims, by the way. When he talks about, like, oh, he doesn't want any disclosures to be unfair to anyone, he's not talking about the victims. He's not talking about the victims. He's talking about his friends who might be implicated in this, or he himself. Like, that is a shocking revelation, right? And again, we have to point out, that conversation with Maxwell wound up with her being transferred to a prison that she is legally not allowed to be in. Like, the camp she got moved to prohibits sex offenders like her from being there. It is, it's shocking, right? And it just made me think of this particular article from back in the day. Listen to Donald Trump recount how his 17-year-old daughter made him swear not to date someone younger than her. This is from 2016. When Ivanka was 17 years old, she reportedly set an age limit for the women that Dad Donald Trump was allowed to date. "I have a deal with her," Trump said of his daughter during a taping of The Howard Stern Show in June 1999. "She is 17 and doing great, Ivanka. She made me a promise, swear to her, that I would never date a girl younger than her." Here, do we have this?
But Donald, do you worry because you have a daughter who's a model?
I do, and I have a deal with her. She's just 17, and she's doing great, Ivanka, and she made me promise her, swear to her, that I would never date a girl younger than her. So, as she grows older,
right,
the field is getting very limited severely. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the nerve of her. Now you can't go out with 16-year-olds.
Just FYI, in 1999, the age of consent in New York was 17. So Ivanka, at 17 years old, the age of consent in New York State at the time, had to get her dad to promise not to date girls younger than her. Howard Stern even noting, darn, now you can't go out with 16-year-olds. Interesting stuff going on with Donald Trump, for sure. Also, maybe worth noting, this article from Politico from 2016. A woman who accused Donald Trump of raping her 2 decades ago when she was a 13-year-old aspiring teen model has again dropped a federal lawsuit over the alleged assaults. Multiple. This same woman has brought multiple lawsuits and dropped them both times against Donald Trump with the allegations that she was 13 years old at the time. There's a really interesting Daily Beast podcast that I want to play a portion of This is Stacey Williams, who dated Jeffrey Epstein briefly. And she has an interesting story about Donald Trump.
I wonder what kind of thing she must have witnessed to make her worried about that kind of thing. Especially with Trump's "Epstein stole my talent" comment.
Oh, right? Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. So just trigger warning here. It does involve sexual assault.
So tell us about the time that he takes you to visit Donald Trump. You're walking down Fifth Avenue and he looks up at Trump Tower.
So we went on one of our walks and we're heading down Fifth, and he was talking about, he always talked about Donald. That was, I can't name another friend that he ever mentioned. He spoke about him regular when we had contact pretty consistently. And so he was sort of ever present in those conversations and in those months. And so we took a walk down Fifth, and he mentioned, oh, you know, Donald likes you so much, or he's such a fan, or I don't know, whatever. Let's stop by and see him. And that was kind of a normal thing to me because...
Well, Monty the Ogre, she talks about it and how she got into this. And it's basically, you're a teenager, you've been scouted to be a model, you move to the big city, and suddenly, you know, your model friends are all hot commodities to these rich fucks. And they're all skeezy scumbags who want to date, you know, 14, 15-year-olds. And you're 15, and it feels cool to get into big, you know, the big adult clubs and get booze. And so you go along with it, not really realizing how utterly and completely disgusting the people you're interacting with are. So that's kind of what happens. That's why these rich people gravitate towards, you know, children. It's because they can take advantage of them.
I knew at that point how close they were, what good friends they were. That wasn't the first time I'm hearing, you know, about the degree of their connection where it's normal or comfortable to just stop by his office in the middle of the day. So I said, oh, all right, okay, let's stop by. And Donald came out of his office right outside in the sort of the waiting area and started groping me while the two of them continued having a casual conversation. And Donald had an assistant who was sort of walked back and forth a couple times, and they did introduce me to her at one point. I will never remember her name.
But Donald is groping you in front of Jeffrey as they are continuing to talk.
Yes. His touch is just moving his hands sort of up and down my body, and like smiling at him, and Jeffrey's smiling back. And I don't remember specific. It was, I think the conversation oriented around me and my career. You know, Stacey's on fire, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And what was Jeffrey doing at this time?
He was engaging in the conversation and just looking at Donald. I didn't read any kind of reaction when it was happening.
And was that, because that feels very odd for a man to stand with his girlfriend talking to another man who is groping his girlfriend. And you've said that he was groping your breasts, he had his hands all over your buttocks, he was just wildly inappropriate with you and entitled. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Jeffrey, I don't think either of us thought, I didn't think of him as my boyfriend and vice versa. I mean, we were dating, we had, I would say for a period of 4 months, almost daily contact. Most of it was the telephone. And so, yeah, the incident is completely insane. But from the boyfriend point of view, I don't think it brought up any feelings of jealousy. I think he expressed rage to me right afterwards.
I wanted to talk to you about that. What did you do in the moment when this was going on, when Donald Trump was allegedly groping you? What did you do?
I froze. I just froze, and I was just confused because they were continuing to talk. So as if nothing's happening. And so everything Donald does is hidden in its brazenness. You just do it right out there and everyone goes, well, that can't be happening because it's totally wrong. And he's doing it right in front of everyone. So therefore it can't be happening. I mean, that's what went through my head at that point. Like, it was just utter confusion. And for me to be that frozen when I had a rep for really being a bit of a street fighter and really pushing back in studios when photographers were inappropriate. And I mean, I was reprimanded for it by my agencies. They'll be so difficult. You don't have to sleep with them, but at least make them think you're going to sleep with them. And, all this game playing that had to go on for these tiny egos. And so, I was really combative. And so for me to freeze, how masterful he is in a way to pull that off.
Well, and your remark about his brazenness and it happening in plain sight and people not acknowledging it is, I think, a really valid one. So what happened after you left the building, or after you left Donald?
It's a really interesting show. She also received, after this groping incident, received a postcard of Mar-a-Lago from Donald Trump, and it has a signature, everything. It's all very weird. She talks about how Epstein had video of her changing because he had his entire place wired for video. And she also talks about how there are many other women who are involved in this who know about the relationship between Trump and Epstein, but many of them are just too afraid to come forward because she's come forward. She's gotten death threats. She's gotten threats. Many of the women involved now have children. They don't want to bring that into their children's lives. But it is very interesting. At one point in this conversation, she mentions, that like when she moved to the big city, like, because she comes from kind of the podunk middle of nowhere, she mentions at one point living out in the sticks and seeing like the KKK burning a cross on someone's yard and how she wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. And modeling was her vehicle for that. And she talks about going to the big city and, she like had like a 15-year-old model friend who was dating a 40-year-old and would like invite her out to parties and drink and stuff. And it's like, it was normalized in this circle. And that's the kind of circle that people like Epstein and Trump were running in. These men should be in jail. There is no feasible way that Donald Trump was not aware that this was happening. There's just no way, if not actively participating in it. And frankly, I think a lot of the evidence kind of points towards him participating. It's pretty disgusting. But I would recommend this video from the Daily Beast podcast. It's pretty interesting. Has a lot of details. I can't stomach more of it. It's pretty gross. But long story short, I think there's a pretty compelling reason here that Donald Trump's daughter had to make him promise not to date someone younger than her when she was newly the age of consent in New York.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, Bane, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat.